our Zoom recording and say good afternoon. This afternoon, it's noon. Everyone, I'm Jen Bonet with Creative Coast, and today's lunchtime topic is on WordPress, and we have Mason with us. Mason's coming to us from the Boston area, I believe, right? Massachusetts? Yep. But Mason was formerly a Creative Coast member and active in this region. I know you spent some time in Atlanta, and he's a software developer, graphic design, creative person. Did you go to SCAD?
Yes.
Yes, so SCAD alum. So that's awesome. So I have two people in the waiting room. Let me go check this out. And I know them both, so we'll let them in. Awesome. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to Mason and let him take over. I will be managing the chat room, and so if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand or post it in the chat, and we'll make this an interactive discussion. But without further ado, Mason.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, so we're here today to talk about WordPress, as you can see on my screen. So WordPress has been around for about 17 years, so you've probably heard about it. It was originally a blogging tool, but it's what's called a CMS, a content management system. And essentially what that means is you kind of set up the original look and feel that you'd like, and then you enter all your content, photos, things like that, and they're just spit out onto the page looking the way that you've originally set up. So you don't have to code every page. You don't have to do a lot of it's handled through a WYSIWYG editor, or what you see is what you get editor. So what WordPress actually makes up about 1/3 of the internet, and so you're in good company. And it can handle anything from a small business or an individual all the way up to a large corporation. This is a very scalable platform, and why I tend to lead my clients towards this. If you started off selling Etsy supplies and you wanted to switch to WordPress, this could scale all the way into an Amazon-sized business if you really pushed WordPress to its limits. But it is a free tool, which is great. You don't have to pay to use WordPress, unlike a lot of other tools. And the only thing you really do need to pay for if you want to have this is a custom domain and hosting for that custom domain. Now, you can get WordPress completely for free if you go through WordPress.com. And you might get confused. There's WordPress.org and WordPress.com. WordPress.com is the purchasable version of WordPress, but they also give a .wordpress.com domain to you for free if you want to blog there. You can also purchase a custom domain and hosting through them. WordPress.org, on the other hand, is where you can download WordPress and install it yourself onto your own server. Another great thing about WordPress is that a lot of hosts offer a one-click install of WordPress, so you don't have to go through and manually set it up. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to use a tool called Flywheel, or Local by Flywheel. This is a tool that if you're not ready to start using WordPress on a custom domain, or if you just want to mess around with it, this is a free-to-use tool that'll let you build a WordPress site on your own computer. It will give you all of the functionality of using WordPress in your browser without actually having to upload it to the internet. But we'll do this, and then I'll show you how to move it onto the internet, and it's kind of the same process. So what we're going to do is we're going to click Create a New Site. It's going to be a photography site because I feel like it's going to give us a lot of the things that WordPress can do pretty easily. And we're going to call it Beard's Eye View. So all of these things, you can just click Continue. It's going to ask you to add a admin username and password. So just take care of that quickly. Remember what you typed in, or else you won't be able to get in. And this will just take a minute to provision. It might prompt you to allow it to use some services. Just click OK. It's just making sure that it can use server protocols. It's nothing that will connect to the outside world. This could just take a minute. So I do want to talk about how to get Flywheel if you want to use it. Like I said, it's free to use. You can go to localwp.com and click download. It's going to have you fill out a little form. If you don't want to be contacted by a sales rep, give them fake information. Learn from me. I have been contacted way too many times. But another great thing is these guys were purchased by a company called WP Engine, which is a managed WordPress host. And what that means is they kind of handle all of the updating and backing up of your site. You'll see managed WordPress hosting a lot. And if you don't want to pay the extra money for it, it's not super necessary, but it is nice if you can. So now our site is up and running. We can see that by this little green dot here. And this is the information based on it. It's generated a site domain for us. It's beardseyeView.local. And if we want to go view it, we're going to click view, and it'll open a browser window for us, and we'll see this. So this is our local website. What we're going to do is we're going to remove this cache buster part, and we're going to go to wplogin.php. So this is how you log into your website. This is the basic WordPress login screen. We're going to log in. And then this is the dashboard for WordPress. This is what the back end of WordPress looks like. It's pretty simple. You're going to get some stuff up here. This is just a welcome guide. I usually dismiss this. And then you're going to have this. I usually do a little cleanup when I first start. I like to move stuff around just to make sure I have things where I always remember them being. What you get on this dashboard is your site overall. You've got what your posts are, how many comments, how many pages, and what theme you're currently using. You've got your recent activity. So if you have other people contributing, this will tell you who's been posting, who you got to go yell at, things like that. And then you can quickly draft something. And this is a site's health status. This was added in, I believe, WordPress 5.3. So it was this early last year. This kind of tells you if you have some updates you need to do, if like you're missing something. This is a great way to just keep a quick overview eye on what you need to do. And then this is just a WordPress events. They like shilling their events. So if you want to go to a WordPress event near you, you can put this in, type in your city. It'll tell you where you can go. So that's the dashboard when you first get in here. You'll also see an updates here. This is a page that'll tell you if you have plugins or themes or anything like that to update. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to clean up some of the stuff that comes pre-installed. So we've got a hello world post. We're going to delete that because we don't want that. And then we're going to go to pages, and we're going to get rid of sample page because, again, we don't want that. And you might have seen that there was a comment, but because we deleted that post, the comment's been deleted. And then we can go into appearance, and we'll see that there's already 3 themes installed. So we've got 2020, 2019, and 2017. They didn't create one for 2018, but they usually create one every year for every release of WordPress. You can delete these. You don't need these here, but if you want to go and add a new theme, what you can do first is you can go to Add New, and this will bring you into the theme gallery. These are all the free themes that WordPress offers through its site. There are hundreds and hundreds of themes in here. If you want to do a photography blog, you can type this term photography, and there are tons of themes specifically for photography. We're just going to use 2020 because it's already installed and it's pretty simple to use. But if you wanted to go even further than that, you can purchase a theme through somebody like Creative Market. They sell themes usually from $10 to $60 up to $100. They're your one-time purchase, but they'll give you more functionality if you purchase them. And finally, you can use something like Elementor, which is another drag and drop editor for WordPress. This is a great way to really customize and really see what you're doing hands-on. I don't tend to use this, but if I did have to use one, this is like an amazing tool. So beyond that, we're going to go into our pages, and we're going to create a new page. This will be our home page, and we're just going to call it Welcome. You will notice sometimes when you first launch into this, it will look like this, and it'll get rid of the side menu, and you might be lost. What you can do is just click on this menu over here and click full screen, and it'll bring it back, and you could feel safe. You're still in the same place, but this is where your home page is going to be. We're going to call it Welcome. And before we go, you can see that this URL says /welcome, and we don't want that as our home page because our home page should be our home URL. So we're going to go back into pages, or I'm sorry, we're going to go into settings, and we're going to go to reading, and we're going to go a static page because we can have a home page that just displays posts, or we can do a static home page. This would be more for like a business or someone trying to show main content before their posts. but we can do our home page, and we're going to set that as welcome. And we're going to save the changes here. And then we're going to go back, and we can see this is welcome. Now it's removed that URL. Okay, so this is an ugly mess, and this is not what we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up to Customize, and this will give us a bunch of options to change around how this looks. First of all, we're going to go into Site Identity, and we're going to set up our logo. So I'm going to drop a logo in here. It's going to ask us to crop it. I don't want to crop it. And then we're going to set that like that. And then down here, you'll see Site Title. This is preset when you install it on most. Sometimes it's not, and sometimes this will just say a WordPress site or something like that. Change this to whatever your company or your blog title is going to be. And then there's a tagline here. This is always pre-populated with just another WordPress site. If you don't have a tagline or don't want one, just delete it. It's better to not have one than to have just another WordPress site. And then down here is the site icon. You might be tempted to make this the same as the logo, but I would say make sure you have a background on this, because what this actually is the little icon that appears. It's called a favicon. It appears up in here on your tab. So we're going to hit Publish, and you can see that that's already changed there. Now, we're still not seeing that logo there because this is white. So we're going to make sure that we change this to something that can actually be seen. So we're going to change the background color of our site to white because I don't like that off yellow color. And then we are going to set our primary color here. You can see this pink. Not a fan of the pink. We're going to set this to like a green color. And we're going to publish that. And then we're going to kind of go through this list just to make sure that everything's filled out the way we like it. Here, when we make a post, and an archive is basically a list of all your posts. And when you are filling out a page, you don't want your full post to be shown every time. So what we'll do is we'll set this as a summary of the post. We can also save showing our search in the header, which will show up right here. And if you click on it, it'll open this search bar. We don't want that. We're going to get rid of that. And we also don't need the author bio right now. If you wanted to have a bio, you could. We're going to come back through. We're going to change this color template or cover template. So this overlaid background color is basically anytime a photo shows up in the header, it's going to put this color overlay on it. And again, we want this to be the same color here as here. I am using a little plugin. It's a color picker that just lets me make sure that I grab the same color. We can click on this and replace that, and now they are the same. Overlay text, we want that to be white again, and the overlay opacity, we can drop this if we don't want it to be super green, or if we want it to just be completely green, whatever you'd like. Background image, you might be tempted to say, oh, well, I want the background image of my header to be this. This is actually the background of the whole website, so don't be caught off guard. If you can set like a texture here or something like that, but if you set a whole thing, it will be everything with that background image, so avoid doing that. And then our menus, we want to create a new menu because we want to make sure that this has the menu items we'd like. So we're going to call this primary menu. And right now we only have one. We're going to call it our desktop horizontal menu. And then we're going to add an item, and it's going to give us our options here, and we're going to call it welcome. And we're going to publish that. So this is going to say welcome here. And anytime we add a new item here, it will continue to add it. And these menus can be reused in a lot of different places. Now we're going to go to widgets. Widgets on this theme only exist in the footer, so we're just going to get rid of most of these. We don't need an archive. We don't need that. I'm going to clean that up, and then we're going to clean this up. We're going to leave the search down in the bottom because we removed it from the top, but we're going to leave it like that for now. Now we're going to go to home page settings. Again, this is that. You could change that in here. And then finally, we want our header and footer to change. So we're going to make this like a dark gray. Publish that. All right, so this is getting a little closer to what we're looking for. I'm going to close this out. Now, in order to get the content on this page, we're going to go back into Edit, and we're going to set our featured image. So our featured image, this is a good practice, regardless of whether this shows up on your page or not. Anytime you share, yep.
This is Jen. While you're talking about images here, Jeremy had a question about how you skipped the cropping when you were uploading your logo image. So I just thought under images, I would have you address that.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to go into site identity again. So we'll remove this and we'll select the logo. So we'll select this here, and we don't want to do the cropping. So there's a skip cropping right here. There isn't always an option if it requires it to be a specific size, but logos generally will allow you to be whatever. This is just a recommended size, but we're just going to click skip cropping down here.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I know I kind of blew through that one. I'm just trying to make sure we stay within our time. So we're going to go back into edit page, and this is how we actually interact with the content on the page. So our featured image, like I said, is whenever you share a link on Facebook, it will try and populate an image along with that link. The featured image is the image that it tries to pull. If it doesn't have one, it will just pull whatever the first image is, and if you have like an icon or something, it's going to look weird. So I would just say anytime you create a page, it's good to add a featured image to it. So I've just got some images off screen that I'm going to add in here, and it might take it a second to upload this. There we go. So we've got our featured image. The nice thing with this theme is when you add the featured image, it actually adds it here. You can also change that with the template. A lot of themes come with a lot more template options, but what we're going to do is we're going to do a cover template, or I'm sorry, we are going to do a full width template, which is the same thing. It's just going to change the way our content looks a little bit. And again, it's not going to change this part. It's going to change everything below it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start adding in the content for this page. And there we go. I'm going to copy this. And when WordPress, its first option is just text. Like you can just paste text right in. But this is called the block editor. And WordPress gives you options for a lot of different blocks. And their text one it's a lot like Word. You can center a line, we can bold it, we can italicize it. If we want to add a link in, we can do that. We can do a lot to make sure, and if you wanted to open in a new tab, I would just click that because it'll otherwise it'll navigate away from your site. There's also a few more options in here if you want to add in inline code and things like that. But that is how you get text onto the page. We're going to go and add a new block. Sometimes you'll see it down here with a little plus sign. Most of the time you'll have to go up here to just click add a new block. We're going to add a separator. And then we're going to come in here and you can go columns. So WordPress now has column layouts. So you can drop, we're going to do a 3-column layout here, and we're going to add images. And you can actually just drag directly onto these. If you're going to do something like this, I would make sure that they are all the same size image. So otherwise, you'll have to crop them to make sure that they aren't raggedy. And then I'm going to add a header underneath these. You'll notice that when you try and change this, it doesn't give you the option for H1. H1 is generally reserved for the title of the page, so you don't want to use H1 in a bunch of different places. But if you really wanted to break the rules, you can over here. There's more options. I would just say use the options given. So we're going to say this. And then if you wanted to say, I don't want to go through and do a header every time, we can do duplicate. We can duplicate blocks in here. Sometimes it'll put it above it. You'll just have to drag it back up above. And you can see that this will do that. Duplicate again. And we're going to put this over here. Oh, sometimes it's a little finicky, but there we go. So now we've got a 3-column layout with some icons here. We can actually click on these images, and if we wanted to add a link to this image, we could do that. Pretty easy to do if you wanted to use those as a navigation through your site. We're going to add another separator here, and then we're going to add in a new column layout. And we're going to go a 2-column layout. We're going to do a text on this side, or we'll do a header. And we're going to do an image. We're going to drag in another image here. I'm going to set this as H3. And we're going to do paragraph text. And then what you can do is you can actually affect a whole row of items. So if you wanted to click on this, you can see columns, and we can edit the columns. I'm sorry, up here, this will change the way your cursor works. So one is select, which will just let you select different items, and the other is to edit. So if you click on something, it'll edit that directly. Sometimes if you can't get the column to show, or the row to show up, you just switch over to select, and it'll allow you to select the whole column or set of columns. But what I want to do is I want this to align vertically. So we're going to vertically align these in the middle. And then we're going to do another one of these. And we're going to do another 2 column. We're going to do a header. We're going to do a paragraph. And then we're going to do another image here. And then again, we are going to align these vertically. And then finally, we are going to add in one more separator and a gallery, because we are a photographer and we want to make sure that we show off a bunch of photos. So we're going to dump 8 photos in here, and this is going to spit out a little gallery for us. On the right-hand side, when you add a new block, it will give you options to edit the block over here. So we want to have a 4-column layout here, and we want to crop the image so that they all stay the same height. We can also set it to link to the media file, which is the actual file that you're seeing. And then we can set it to, if we wanted to just be a thumbnail, they'll be smaller. If we want them to be all the way up. Sometimes if you set these lower ones, they end up being a little blurry. So I usually just go at least large, if not full size. But yeah, so that is our page. We're going to update this. When we hit update, it updates the page, and then we can go view the updated page. So now we have all of our content on the page. And then we can click on these. It'll actually open the image here. But yeah, the other thing, I changed this a little while back, but if you wanted to see what the difference was between these templates that I was talking about, this is the default template, which is the same thing, except it's narrow. It will now, all the content will be super narrow on the page, which I never really like. I would just always, if you're not thrilled with the way that the columns set, or the width of the content, look down here to make sure you have, or see if you have another template that you can use in the page attributes section. So that will spit out our full page. We've got our page here, and then we're going to do one more thing. We are going to set up a posts page. First things first, we're going to create the archive, which we're going to call the cut, because we're a beard-based photography.
Mason, as you go through this page, if you could slow it down a little bit as you add new blocks. There's been a couple of questions about blocks. As you add a new text block, slow that down a little bit.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I'll actually go back to the home page. This one's not going to have any blocks on it. Actually, the post that we're going to do will. So this is just, we're just going to call this the cut. This is our blog. But you can call this whatever you want. If you want it to be blog, you can call it that. And then what we're going to do, because this is called the cut, and the only reason I'm doing this is because it's going to be a unique URL. So if you don't want to say /blog/ whatever, you'd like. But we're going to come down to settings, and we're going to go to reading. And then, I'm sorry, it is going to be permalinks. We're going to go to permalinks, and then we're going to see a custom structure here. This will let us do /the cut. And then this is just a tag. This will spit out whatever the post name is. You can add in whatever structure you'd like if you want the author's name in there. But this just basically lets you have a custom structure for your blog pages or your blog posts. So then we're going to come back, and we will go to here, and we're going to go to Customize, and we are going to add that blog archive into our menu. I'm going to click here again, and we're going to click Items, and then you'll see the cut has shown up here now. And we'll hit Publish, and now you can see that we have our menu here. And one nice thing about WordPress is it automatically adds in a style for whatever page you're currently on. So we're currently on Welcome. If we moved over to the cut, it would underline it, showing that we are currently on this page. We're going to come back here, and if we go to the cut, it's kind of a boring page. There's nothing here. But if we come in here, we go to Add New, and we can go to Add a New Post. This is located anywhere that is, so we can see that's here too. We can also add a new post by going into Posts and adding New. But we're going to just call this our first post. This header right here, this is always here. If you want to change it, it'll just change the header of that page. We're going to, again, set a featured image, which I'm just dragging onto the page. Set that, and then we're going to copy in our text. So it automatically starts with a paragraph block. It'll just let you type whatever you'd like. I'm going to copy in some information. Is there a question I can answer about the blocks while we're here?
I had muted myself, sorry. The question was, let me find it. Are you just dragging and dropping the block? How do you get them on the page to edit? I had a question on what a separator block was.
So the separator block just creates a line. It's also called a horizontal rule. It just basically is a line that goes across. You don't need to have it. I was just adding them as an extra item to add in. But if you want to add a new block, there's a few ways to do it. If you click off of here, you can see this little plus. You can also click up here where the plus is, and it'll add a new block. And then this will open the block context menu, which will give you a bunch of options. So if you wanted to embed your Twitter feed or any of these items, we've got some widgets. I'm using some of the more common ones just to kind of show that these are a little more complex. But if you wanted to add in a button, this is where you would find all of that. I would just search. There are plugins to extend out how many blocks you have, but this is kind of the basic set of blocks that you can use. So we'll add in, we can also, when we have a break in paragraphs here, like I did, I just copied and pasted in all of this into one text block, but it will actually allow you to insert blocks in between paragraphs if you accidentally pasted everything in. So we're going to add an image in here, which is, again, going to just be the image that we had before. What we're also going to do is I'd mentioned the summary of the post. We're going to add in a summary as well. If you come over here on this side, you can see the block settings, which are whatever block you're currently on. It'll give you the options for that block. And then there are document settings, which are for your whole page. And down here you can see excerpt. This exists for posts. When your post is shared or when you show your post anywhere on the website, if it shows a summary, it'll only show what little text you give it. Otherwise, it'll show the entire post, which is often a lot more than maybe a paragraph. You can choose if you want to have comments. You can choose if you want to have pingbacks, which a pingback is if someone shares your posts or link to it, it will let you know that someone's doing that. And then we can add in a tag. We'll call this a post. And then we'll hit enter. And it will actually create a tag here. We can remove them if we don't want it, but we do. And then we're going to close that up. We can also add categories, which, again, we're going to call this photography. And we'll add this category in. It will manage all the categories that you've added in and tags. So when you start adding more and more, it will give you an option to just select them out of a list of your most used ones. And it'll actually, I believe in the tags one, it'll show which ones you use the most. So if you wanted to stick this to the top of your blog, if you wanted to make sure that this was the first one that people saw, you can choose that too. But we're going to publish this. And we're going to go in, and now we can view our post. So this post here, it follows the same structure as our homepage, except now we can see that that summary text is here. It also has some additional information, who the author was, when it was shared, how many comments are currently on it, and any tags that are, or any categories that are currently in it. But if you wanted to switch over to the other template, which is easy enough to do, we can go to our post attributes and we can go to the cover template, which will change the way that the content is displayed, and it will look like this. But I like the other one better. So I am going to go back, and I'm going to set this back to the full width template.
One of the things that I had trouble finding in the new editor, because I was using the old editor, was how to schedule a post in the future. Could you show that real quick?
Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to actually change this back to a draft. So we're going to switch to draft up here. You can see our preview. So if we're making changes, and this works on pages too. If you're making changes to a page and you're like, I don't know if this is going to work right, I don't want to publish it because it might be seen, you can hit preview and it will actually open a preview. So we can change this to our second post, and we'll be sneaky and we'll view preview. And you can see this will give us a really long URL. This is not a live page for anyone but you to see, because you'll have to be logged in to actually view this page. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to publish. You can see here, you can change this date to a date in the future. So if we wanted to schedule it for tomorrow, we're just going to set it as the 17th. And this will say update, and now is a scheduled post. So if we wanted to go and retroactively change it to say that this was actually changed, we wanted to say that this was posted on the 10th, we can lie and change that and hit publish, and it will actually change the published date to the 10th. So it doesn't actually have to be when you're specifically publishing it. If there was something that was intended to go out a little while ago, you can set it to be a retroactive post, or if you don't want it to post today, you can set it for a week from now.
I'm using it a lot right now for the Creative Coast, for those of you, so I got behind on posting some of our Savannah Morning News articles onto the website. So now I'm backdating those, but I want them to show up in the blog list in the right order by date. And then I'm pre-scheduling out our good news articles, right? So I'm writing them ahead of time and scheduling them out one a day, so that we're releasing an article a day. So that's become very important to me in the last month. So that's kind of how I'm using that feature.
So yeah, and you can also, in this same area, you can see that this visibility is public. If you want it to be a private page, it can be set for only site admins and editors, or it can be password protected. So you can set a password for this page. You can also, there's another option, if we switch this back to a draft, we can set this to pending review. So this will say it needs to be reviewed before it's published, but we're just going to publish it back up. And then we're going to go to view post. So our post is now here, and now when we go back to the cut, oh boy, did I unpublish it fully? Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. I have to go to settings and reading, and then I'm sorry, I should have done this when I was setting it up. So we set up our blog archive page, but we didn't set it to be the archive. So when we set our home page as a static front page, we also need a page that's going to spit out these posts. So we're going to set that to this in the reading area under settings. We're going to hit save, and then we're going to go here, and we're going to go. And now we'll see every post will just show up on this page in sequential order. So now that that's done, we're going to go back to our home page and say we're satisfied with how this site works. We're going to go in here, and because this was built on a local site, I want to move it to my actual live domain now. So what we're going to do is we're going to install a plugin. Plugins extend out the utility that WordPress is able to do. They can do as little as a plugin called Hello Dolly, which just adds a line from Hello Dolly into the dashboard of the site, which is possibly the most useless thing ever. And then they can do as much as completely change how WordPress works. But they do so many things. There's single-use ones that will allow you to just upload SVGs, because SVGs have a security flaw in certain versions. But what we're going to do is we're going to install a plugin called All-in-One Migration. And this is a great tool if you've decided you want to mess around locally and you're like, wow, I really like this site, but I don't want to rebuild it live. Or if you just want to back up your site, this one makes it very easy to do. So we're going to activate this. And while we're doing that, we're actually going to go over to my hosting panel, and I'm going to show you what you can do. I'm using a host called DreamHost. You can use any host you'd like. I would suggest not using GoDaddy, but any other host is great. We're going to go into, most hosts have a one-click WordPress install, and that is a great way. If you can't do it this way, feel free to email me. My email is hello@masonkazel.com. It takes a little extra to install WordPress on certain hosts, but it's super easy to get it up and running. But if you're lucky enough to have a one-click install, which, like I said, most hosts do, you'll just go in here, you'll click on WordPress, you'll select the domain that you want it to go on. We're going to do, where is it? Workshop.masonkazel.com. We're going to automatically create a database. A database is like a spreadsheet where all of your content is stored, and the WordPress site is just pulling the content from there and sticking it into the right places. We're going to uncheck Deluxe Install. We're going to uncheck Install WordPress Site Builder. It's a site builder. We don't need all the bells and whistles. This is all just crap. And then just click Install it for me now. I've actually already done this, so because it takes like 10 minutes sometimes. And I just wanted to make sure that we had this up and running. So we're going to go in here. Hopefully this link is not expired. Great. So you will get, when you get the new link, you'll get an email that looks like this. It'll say installer. Here's all the information you need. The main thing you need is the link to go reset your password. So we've already got that right here. Just copy whatever, just generate a great password. Don't use like 123, don't use, use a strong password. WordPress, it is so prevalent that people are always trying to attack WordPress sites. Just have a strong password. Like, it's the best thing to do, and it will save you a lot of headaches. Just don't have a weak password, because they generate weak passwords, and they know them all. And make sure you copy that password, because it is so easy to just skip past it and not copy it. We're going to log in here. So we're going to have another messy dashboard. Don't worry about it. What we're going to do is we're going to skip past all the other stuff that we did the first time. We're just going to go to plugins. And we're going to install the same plugin. Here's Hello Dolly. Like I said, it's horrible. But this is an important plugin. If you don't get this pre-installed, and you're building your website, this is a great plugin. It's called Akismet Anti-Spam. What this does is it automatically moderates your comments on your posts and makes sure to flag known spam comments. This will, like, I think it every year blocks hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of comments that are just spam and malicious. So this is a great one to have. It just takes a little bit of setup. But we're going to do all-in-one migration again. We're going to install that and activate. Now we're going to go back to our plugins from our local site, and we'll see a new menu item has shown up. And we're going to go to Export. And it doesn't matter if you do this. I always accidentally hit Add. You can just click up here. What we're going to do is we're going to do Find, and what we're going to do is we're going to type in our current local URL. So, and this will work if you have a live site that you want to move to a new URL. If you want to just change a bunch of words, you can do the same thing. It's a little complicated for that, but this will work for moving any URL to a new URL. It will search for every instance of birdseyeView.local and change it to workshop.masonkazel.com. And we're going to export this to a file. This will just take a second to put all that together. It'll give us a 21 megabyte download. Download that, and then we're going to go to our new site. And again, the same menu item is here. We're going to go to Import, and we can just actually drag this right onto here. This will go through, read that file. It will pull over all of your posts, all of your media, every setting that you've done. This is just the only thing to be aware of is if your site's existed for maybe a year and you're uploading a lot of photos, that might be a really big file. And if it gets, your site might have a 64 megabyte upload limit. There is a plugin that comes with this. If you click on Get Unlimited, they'll give you up to 512 megabytes as a free plugin. But if you get a huge site, which I just dealt with the other day, you might need to pay for the unlimited, which will give you just unlimited bandwidth to upload a gigantic file. So we're going to proceed. It'll go through here. It'll start replacing things, and it'll say your site was imported successfully. And then we're going to click up here, and now our site's live. And so everything is still exactly the way we left it on our old site. The only main thing to make sure you do is log in. And this password is the same as the one you had on local, not the one that you set when you installed WordPress. Oops, not that. And just go in to the settings and go down to permalinks and then just hit save. This is just a fail-safe just to make sure that the permalinks were set correctly. Because sometimes if you are copying from one domain to a new domain, you might get like weird redirects on your machine as a caching problem. This is good to just make sure that the permalinks were migrated properly. But yeah, so this is now a live website. Yeah. Are there any questions? I know I went very fast. There was a lot to cover in 45 minutes.
Wade had a question at the very beginning that I thought I would save for the end, and that was on, do you do most or all your work on WordPress or other platforms, depending on the need of the project? Why WordPress for you?
So I leave that to the client a lot. I try and steer them towards WordPress. I actually just had a client who wanted to migrate one Squarespace site to another Squarespace site, but once they realized that Squarespace doesn't have a file repository, there's a few other problems. They only have one post type. I didn't like how limiting Squarespace is, and I had walked them through like some of the things that they would be missing out on if they continue to expand, which they were expanding at the time. And they wanted to move over to WordPress. The nice thing with WordPress is it is just so broadly expandable. You saw a page created and a post created. Those are two different types of content. But the great thing about posts is posts don't necessarily mean blog. There is a plugin that I use as a developer called Custom Post Type UI and then Advanced Custom Fields, which both generate a custom post type. So if I said I wanted to have all of my projects as one post type and then all of my like our charities that we work with, and here's a charity, here's how, like a description of the charity, here's their link. I can create a custom post type for that too. So it's a way to structure your content in a much better way than say Squarespace or Wix does, in my opinion. And the great thing is, it is so easy to kind of silo content so that you're not copying and pasting almost ever.
And I guess the other thing is, a couple of notes here is we're doing WordPress. You've leveraged the WordPress code base from WordPress.org versus building a blog on WordPress.com. So it's that you're hosting it at DreamHost. You own all the content that you're creating, and you could change it anytime you want. Whereas if you're on WordPress.com or Squarespace, they change, your site changes. They kind of own.
Yeah. So
who owns the content becomes a question in some cases there.
So WordPress is an open source project. It is open to the public to be used, to be modified. The great thing about Flywheel, like I was saying, is now that we've done this, I can go into here and let's, oops. And I can see this is the local sites that I have on my machine. I can open this up, and here is the actual, this is the full files for WordPress. All of it is modifiable. I can do whatever I'd like to it. Nothing here is, other than when there is a core update, is modified beyond me. And the core updates, you can kind of just go through with them, or you can modify what you want to be edited. But you own everything that you're doing. WordPress is never going to come in and say, like, that's our system, you can't mess with that. It is completely open source, and you can modify it to your whim.
And my other question was, like, so you built the site locally first and then published. Would you do that for a customer? Like how would you share your local version with a customer if you did it that way before you kind of went live?
So I like to build locally first because it's a faster development cycle for me. I also like to suggest it to new users because they don't have to pay for hosting. They don't have to pay for a domain or deal with getting it live on their server. This is just a simple way, but as far as doing something like this, I will just create a subdomain on my URL like I did with the workshop site. This is considered a subdomain. So I'll just create a subdomain, and then I'll just push the site up to here, just like you all saw. It's such a fast, it takes me about 10 minutes total to get it up and running for them, including like setting up the domain and everything. So that's how I'll usually do it. And then the nice thing is, once you're in here, if you wanted to modify directly, you can come in and you can use a FTP software like FileZilla, and you can go in and edit the site directly. So let's see. And here again, same files. You can go in and just modify them right on the server if you really wanted to do that.
Wouldn't recommend it. Okay, we have a couple of questions. Katie wanted to find out about anti-spam plugins. Specifically, they have a form plugin, and they're getting a lot of Russian spam bots through the form.
Yeah, so one thing I would suggest is using, you can use some free form builders like WP Forms and things like that. I would try and find a form builder that has a reCAPTCHA integration. That is a first great way to block spam. Honestly, I would say, as far as forms go, reCAPTCHA is your best bet. That is going to give you the most secure form that you can get. You just have to, my favorite form builder is Gravity Forms. They do cost money, but there's also Ninja Forms. A lot of them do have a reCAPTCHA integration. I would just look for a form builder that does that specifically, because if you just have a form out there, spam is going to find it. They're going to fill it out. And if you don't want to deal with building a custom solution to handle that, I would just find a form builder that integrates. As far as spam on comments and things like that, like I said, Akismet is a great plugin to manage that kind of spam. You can also go into the settings panel and go to on the general, or I'm sorry, writing, right? No, reading. Oh my goodness, discussion. And you can change a lot of these settings. And a good thing to change is, where is it? You can hold a comment for moderation. And you can also, what is it? Comment must be manually approved, or where is the register? The user one is what I'm looking for.
Further up.
Oh, they may have used it. Is it in here? Oh, that.
Comment author must fill out name and email, or be registered. Yeah, I think this is what I'm looking for. There's another thing for users though, and I don't use comments a lot because it's such a terrible, there's so many people that hit these with spam comments, but Akismet will block most of that. I just tend to avoid it. But there is a setting in here. I'm trying to remember where it is. It might be in privacy. No. They may have moved it because it used to say anyone can register and you could turn that off. But I'm not sure where. Oh, no, it's in users. There we go. Maybe. No, I'm looking foolish. I'm sorry.
I don't remember. They may have moved that in this version, but yeah, they used to say you could uncheck anyone can register, and you could just register people, or people could request to register.
Great.
But Akismet, go ahead.
Jeremy had some questions on landing pages. Jeremy, do you want to unmute yourself and ask away?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jen. And thanks, Mason. Great presentation.
I'm sorry it was so speedy.
No, it was fine. The skip cropping, I think the theme that I was using recently just didn't have that skip cropping. So I was like, wait, how did he do that? I don't like cropping a lot of times. But at any rate, it was pretty simple once you're like, oh, there's a button right there.
Yeah, sometimes they require a specific size.
Right. So yeah, one of the things that I was wondering about was multiple landing pages for a domain. You know, if we have different messaging that we want to address for different search results and search engine optimization stuff. How do you, I've heard that you can set up multiple like subdomains, but I really don't know how to do that. So if you want to have multiple landing pages for the same product, what do you suggest?
Do you want to have like a separate WordPress install, or are you just trying to have like a page that is part of the main structure and it just says like landing page 1, landing page 2?
Right, yeah, the second sounds more like what I'm trying to do. Yeah, not separate WordPress installations or anything. It's just one domain, you know, but if somebody searches, you know, wants free ebooks, they're going to get one thing. If they want, you know, free something else, they're going to get a different landing page. Right, so, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, for something like that, what I would do is I would probably just go into pages. I would create a new page, and I would set the template to be the same template as I have for my home page. And then what you can do is go into a great way to handle this, and another amazing plugin. If you are very interested in SEO and things like that, Yoast is probably, I install this on, this is one of the 5 plugins I install on every site. Yoast is a great way to get the tagging and everything that you need to say like, this is for ebooks, this is for this is for this, and it will push higher as opposed to your home page if you tag this properly. So it'll just take it a second to install, and I can show you what the interface looks like.
So while that's installing, what are your 5 plugins that you install on every site?
So I do all-in-one migration is one. CPT UI, like I said, this is custom post type UI. The great thing about this one is, let me show you on my site. I can show you what this looks like so we don't have to wait for it to install. You can see over here, CPT UI. This allows me to create a custom post type. This allows me to say, I want just some specific, there's a lot of fields in here. It's a little scary sometimes, but really it lets me set support. So if I only want a title for something, or if I don't want it to have the content section, I can do all that. I can let it have a front. This would be great for landing pages if you were comfortable with any kind of development. I don't want to assume that, but this is great if you wanted to build a custom landing page post type. The next one is advanced custom fields. That's this one. This one goes hand in hand with CPT UI. This lets me create custom fields for specific post types. So if I just want a project subheadline, a project description, project content, and project overlay as the post types. So let's say this is a post that I just made. Instead of having that big, broad content box like you saw in the other ones, this one will just have the project subheadline, a description, content. This makes everything much more, you have specific content in specific places instead of just a big block editor. I do this for clients a lot who want to have specific access but don't want everybody to be able to edit everything. But yeah, and then all of these are given just some specific criteria, and then all of the content is spit out in a specific way. And then, oops. Let's see, what are the other ones? Oh, enable media replace is a big one. WordPress doesn't let you, if you have a photo and you're like, oh man, I uploaded the wrong one. If I wanted to replace that photo, you can't do that with WordPress. This plugin gives you the option to just replace an image. So it'll have the same name, it'll have the same everything, just a new picture. It's a little bit of a quality of life plugin, but when you come in here now, you can click on the media and it'll just say upload new file. You just got to make sure it's the same format, and it'll replace it everywhere on the website with that photo being used, so long as it's linked in normally.
I never had that one before. Normally, like if you use an image in multiple places, you have to go edit it.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a great way to replace an image. I love it. Another great thing is a redirection tool. If you change Yoast, a lot of times just handles redirection, but if you don't want to use Yoast, there's a plugin just called Redirection that'll let you easily add redirects to your website. And then if you're using Yoast, an ACF, and you're using advanced custom fields, ACF content analysis just lets it read those custom post fields. I know that these are a little more technical. I know this was a little not quite the technical workshop, but so let's go back in. We've got Yoast installed now. Let's just make sure that it's activated. But then we can go into our pages, and we'll go into welcome. And then if we scroll down, Yoast will appear now below our main content. And you can see SEO is here. We want to add focus key phrases in here. So we'll add ebook, we'll add download, we'll add things like that. These are the key phrases that you want people to see when they're doing that. You just want to make sure that these exist also on the page. So you want to use your focus key phrases that exist on the page and match those up. That way Google sees those more prevalently than maybe your home page. If someone's like Creative Coast ebook, they would get an ebook page as opposed to the home page. This will also give you what a preview looks like if someone's searching for you, what the desktop result would look like on Google. It'll give you an SEO analysis. I'm pretty screwy because this is all Latin. It gives you a lot more. If you get the SEO or Yoast Premium, it gives you more options to add key phrases and more analysis. This is just a very valuable plugin if you are very heavily trying to get ranked on Google. But yeah, that's what I would suggest if you're doing landing pages. I hope that answers it, Jeremy.
Katie, does that answer your question around how you change the meta tag descriptions in Google? Kind of, yeah. So Katie had asked me before you got on that the meta tag description for their site is showing up with a really old content and wanted to know how to change or get the new description of the site onto Google.
Depending on your theme, your meta description may change where it's being pulled from. I would say Yoast is a great way to modify that. If you go into the Yoast menu item down here at the bottom, it'll actually give you some additional your search appearance, which will let you break up how the titles are separated, what the content types are being shown, how your media is shown. All of that, and then you can edit your home pages, meta tags, and things like that through Yoast by scrolling down, and then you can see below the Google preview, there's Edit Snippet. This will give you some snippet variables, which, like, if you have a tagline or a title, anything like that, you can say, like, you want your page title first before the title of the website, things like that. So this will let you do the structure, and then the slug of that page, this is set up higher. And then your meta description.
They're using Yoast, so she should go into the home page and look at the bottom for where the Yoast settings are under pages. Go to the
under pages and then in welcome, if you're using Yoast.
So underneath all the content, she should see the Yoast plugin description information. Yeah.
Yep. Once you've installed Yoast, it'll show up it'll show up down below your content. You can also it might show up higher, but it'll show up on every page too. So if you want to have a different meta description for every page, you can do that. It'll kind of auto-generate based on what your snippet is too. If you have a, let's see, there is not, it's not on here, but on your posts, like I said, that snippet, you can change that. That might also be being pulled.
Awesome. I want to be mindful of Mason's time and everybody else's time. It's 1 o'clock. So Mason, why don't you wrap up with how they can reach you if they want to reach out to you personally?
Yeah, so my website is masonkazel.com. And if you want to reach out to me, my email is hello@masonkazel.com. Happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. That's it for today. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Mason. Very helpful, very informative, great class. And reminder, we have a happy hour at 5 o'clock this evening for anybody who wants to partake of adult beverages with me virtually on Zoom. See you later. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mason. It was awesome.
Of course, I was happy to do it.